What is up, DTube Steem blockchain? So today it is hard fork 21 day, which is when they're gonna upgrade to, or when they're gonna do a hard fork basically, which is going to change a lot in terms of the curation, how it works with the Steem token. So I want to talk a little bit about this and combine it with a little bit how Avalon blockchain is looking at how Steem curation worked and how they're trying to make a different model which is more elegant. So the more I consider curation and all that, and I talked about it a little bit in the past, but I sort of come back to that the ideal system would be either 0% curation or 100% curation. And for example, Avalon blockchain has a 100% curation based system, combining with one of the aspects that Steem needed, which was a way to try to measure active users, like people that come like daily and are like loyal and have high reputation, and I mean actually real creators of stuff that is basically investing a lot of time and energy and really making stuff. You needed like some form of system to measure who are these active users and reward them more, and that's basically what the Avalon blockchain is doing with their curation system. So that is kind of cool because it makes the curation system more exciting. But let's talk a little bit about this hard fork 21. So my general point is the reason why curation, whether it's 25% or 50%, why I don't really think it mattered that much is because most of the value, I think, always will come from one or two main sources that I think is also called the Pareto principle or something like that, that 80% of something, 80% of your results are going to come from like 20% of the sources. And these sources, basically, I don't really think they care that much about how much curation rewards they're getting, because people that are willing to give that much and like support a system that much, I really don't think they care about am I getting what's my ROI today? Because I think that those larger players, I think that they are looking at it more from a long-term basis, and they see that, well, this is like exponential technology. It's going to take years before you sort of see a return, and that we're moving into one of these times where, well, people want to see quick ROI on a lot of stuff. When I did YouTube videos, for me it was pretty obvious that I have to reinvest 100% and not see any ROI for like 5 or 10 years. It was like obvious to me, and I think it's like obvious now also for many businesses. They're not really making money. Even like Uber and a lot of these companies, even Amazon took quite a long time before they started to pull in some revenue, because they sort of flipped the value back. And that was always obvious for me too, that it's like in terms of the curation thing, I mean, it's going to take such a long time. I mean, 5 to 10 years before you actually would see a return on like investing in a person. And this is sort of how life works, how these systems works, that I don't really think it matters that much if you like tweak it 25, 50, because you still gonna have this thing of, well, you have a few main large curators that sort of makes all the difference, and that you also have a few main large content creators that also makes a lot most of the difference. While most other people are mainly just going to be consuming, enjoying, and they're going to vote, but it's more just going to be for, I think it's more that they eventually just want to support a person, because I think that, especially when you look at it from a mainstream scale, I don't really think most people care that much about making money online. That is mainly just that's a niche audience, and it looks like everyone cares about it when you like search on Google for those topics. And when you're in the crypto industry, it seems like everyone basically cares about ROI and making money, but most people do not really care that much about it. They're just using YouTube, they're using Instagram. They don't really care that they're not really earning any. So in the most regular people are not really going to care that much. I mean, they're just going to use something, and and everything's just going to be as it always has been. There's a few people, like the main people that want to really create content. They're really going to do that well. And people that want to give in terms of like really curating and be like whales in that, they are not really, I don't really think they're that much focused on getting an ROI right now, even though there are some. But most people, I think that when they're giving a huge boost to someone, I think they're mainly doing it because of kindness, because there is really nothing that says that they have to vote on a piece of content or vote on that. I mean, they can make their own stuff and basically vote on it themselves. So when they are basically whales or like voting on stuff, I don't really think they're doing that for curation that much, right? I think they're mainly doing it because of kindness, and that they are sort of enjoying some kind of movement, and that in the long term, what's going to be the main value, I talked about this a lot, it is like the connections that people eventually do with other people. But the thing is, like, you can't see it on a small time period, right? Because that's not how humans sort of build sort of networks. It takes many years, and that you do need this combination of, well, you have people that are willing to invest a lot of time and energy into creating amazing content, and that you also combine that with people that are basically willing to bet long term on specific creators or something like that. Or, I mean, the way it does seems to work is, I think in many ways people are looking at this with like Hard Fork 20 and stuff like that people are gonna like go and search for content every day and stuff like that. And I don't think really that's how it's gonna work. I think that most people in their head max have maybe 5 to 10 creators, and they sort of like them as people, and they sort of see, well, they're creating a lot of value that I enjoy consuming. Or maybe they're seeing, well, they kind of are trying, and then they kind of support that. But I don't think that most people are, in many ways, people sort of want to, I think people in some ways want to sort of create some kind of utopia where everyone is like goes out and search for people all the time, and that this curation boost is going to make so everyone sort of makes more money and everything. But I mean, it's not really true. First, I think they're basically taking away 10% from the reward pool that just goes to some other thing. But basically what it means is 10% less to sort of content creators. I think they're calling it, I'm not sure, it's to so-called grow the system, right? But they already spent like millions of Steem that just like went away. So I mean, in general, that just means 10% less to content creators. Um, and I get it that you're sort of trying to, oh, you can sort of like flag this and flag that or downvote that, but I don't think most people want to do that, and I don't think it's gonna play out that well. But it is nice with Avalon blockchain because, especially for video, it seems to be a very interesting. It seems to be making their improvements that I would like to see. And maybe you can make that sort of token model work for other sorts of content that is not video. I don't really know. Maybe they need other game theory models, because what you realize in this space is one token model may not work for other pieces of content or other models or whatever. But yeah, so I think it's very funny with this like term of that everyone's gonna make more money, or like this idea that people are gonna curate more just because you increase 25% in curation. But it doesn't, for me, that doesn't really make any sense, because as I said, 80% of the results come from 20% of the voters, right? And those people already have decided, well, I like this person or I like this piece of content, so I'm going to vote on it either way. While most of the other voters, I mean, they're not really going to notice a big difference in earnings just because you increase 25%. Let's say they earn 1 cent in curation. Now they earn 2%, right? But that also means if they would start making content, they would also earn way less. First, minus 10% because of that thing that they took away. I'm pretty sure they did. And then also that just as a content creator themselves, they're going to earn less, because more of that value is either going to go back to the source that first of all just wanted to give away the value, but now they're getting it back again, or that value will flow into 80% of the curators that are less invested in the system. So, I mean, these game theory models, I think it's kind of interesting to look at, but they are quite advanced, and you sort of need to have a good understanding of speaking basically with content creators and see basically what they need, because they sort of are in many ways creating a place where people are sort of staying and sort of consuming stuff and sort of is coming back, right? And this bet, for example, it seems like many people, like what they're trying to bet with Hard Fork 21 is, oh, we're just gonna get like the mainstream involved. But I don't really think that is gonna happen, because like the people that are mostly invested is the content creators, right? So if you sort of make content creators, if you sort of alienate them just to try to get sort of the mainstream involved, and the mainstream is not invested, it would take them like 2 to 3 years to sort of understand something. And isn't it just better to just try to double down on the content creators instead that are already invested? And if you double down on the people that are already invested, you don't always have to go search for new people, because I mean, that's a big argument in many ways, that it's like, oh, we just need more people. But from my view is, no, you need invested people in terms of time and energy and resource. And the content creators are basically like the biggest audience there. I mean, they're hanging around, right? And if you double down on them, they are basically going to advertise for free the platform. So this is kind of like something that's quite interesting to talk about. But yeah, I don't really think it's going to make that much of a difference. Content creators that are investing a lot, if they're going to do the same thing, Curators like the that is doing 80% of the results are gonna do the same thing, and there's not really gonna be like a magic thing that happens that you're gonna get some massive adoption or anything like that, because the infrastructure is just not in place. And where are we, like a couple of years in, but in terms of this like Facebook of crypto model. But I would say that we're still on year zero in terms of blockchain and the focus on content creators, because these first couple of years, the first 5 years, it's mainly just been around improving the technology behind the scenes. So it hasn't really begun yet, like the big focus on content creators that I think is going to starting to happen in the 2020s, where people are really going to find, well, the best model is basically support the content creators, and they will basically bring in the mainstream masses. But that means that the value first has to flow to the content creators, so other people in mainstream sort of see, wow, this is kind of cool, this is kind of great content, and that the mainstream is they're mainly more interested in the content, right? And just as with YouTube, like most people just consuming, right? So yeah, it's something that is that's kind of fun to talk about, because you can look at it in many ways. I like to look at it from like devil's advocate perspective sometimes, so it seems like you contradict yourself, but it's just like looking at the same topic in different lights, right? So it's this thing of making money, it's always going to be a challenge, because you sort of have to have solid stuff on all sides. So it's never really going to be something that's easy, because a lot of people want money. So there's going to be a lot of competition in that space. But at the same time, in many ways, you can see that there is less competition and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting to follow. It's going to be very, very interesting to follow, because I think eventually we're going to get to this point where content creators are basically, because they already have so massive value, so massive leverage, because they're giving a lot of value. So eventually, I think a lot of content creators, they're just going to offer this stuff for free all the time, and the thing is that it scales in many ways, I think, because if you have, let's say you offer all your stuff for free to 100,000 people, it looks like a bad deal, right? But here's the thing. Yeah, if you give something for free, I mean, what does it cost really to create that piece of content? Many times it doesn't really cost that much energy or time or whatever. Especially when it gets easier to create stuff, there's still stuff that takes a lot of time and energy and resources and stuff like that. But yeah, let's say you give something to 100,000 people for free, and then just one person, one whale, gives you a lot of value or something like that. Even if 99,000 people gave you nothing, that like one whale or whatever made it worth it, right? So that's kind of like how it works. And that's why it sort of would play out that abundance basically means you can give out stuff for free, basically, and you still have a lot, because it doesn't really cost you that much to create something, right? And that's kind of cool, right? That's kind of interesting. And the people eventually then just going to move to, you're just going to see, well, I save time and energy not having to think about the curation stuff, because I already found something that works and don't really have to change that much. But yeah, Hard Fork 21 will happen today, and yeah, that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. And it's interesting. Follow this space. 2020's coming up soon. You sort of see with all these new phones and stuff like that how crazy good they're getting, and that I think in the future, when people are holding in a phone with like hyper quad core or hyper octa-core, or we already have octa-core, but when they have like 100 cores inside, I think eventually they're gonna laugh at the idea of, well, let's say they're talking to a friend and it's like, why do I need to give him something? Because if you already have some tokens in the system and you're getting more tokens just by being inside of a system, it's just kind of like how stocks and stuff like that works, then it's like, well, I already have my base needs covered, and even if I got more, I'm not really planning on buying a house or a car or anything like that. And yeah, so it's like, I think eventually people are going to sort of laugh at a lot of these ideas that we're doing right now with reward-based systems. I think they're going to be way more advanced in the future, and it's going to be interesting to see it play out. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that today, and I think the hard fork will be in around 10 hours or something like that. Yeah, have a great day, DTube and the Steem blockchain. Bye-bye.